Hello and welcome back to the Padawan podcast, our all Star Wars podcast where we geek out on everything from the galaxy far, far away. I am your host, Jake Berlin, aka Qui-Gon Jake, and I'm joined today by my fellow Rebel scum, Jacob Bartley and Gio Ramos. How's it going, fellas?
Grand Moff Bartley, man. Get it right. It's going good, man.
And it's C3PO.
C3GO, right?
C3GO.
Oh, what did you say last time? 3 CISO?
He said C...
I said
3CPO. He said 3CPO, yeah. All right, so today we have two news stories to talk about. We're going to dedicate today's show to reviewing and recapping episode 1 and 2 from the original or from the prequel trilogy per se.
No.
We're getting much closer to The Force Awakens each day now. We're less than a month away, and so we thought that it'd be a good idea to start talking about the past movies of Star Wars. And today will be the lesser two of the entire series, which is okay. Which we still love talking about because they're still Star Wars.
Yeah.
But first, we're going to start with a few news stories. And first up, this week, as more Star Wars stuff is coming out, we got a little news coming. It's originated from Wired, and the news, it says, simple, Star Wars movies are going to go on forever. Said that the studio is planning on making a Star Wars movie every year for as long as they can go, which ultimately means forever because the Star Wars galaxy is as huge as it can be. And as for us three, it doesn't make us any more excited, or it makes us more excited. It's obviously great news. But we're just going to go over real quick. Jacob, let's start with you. What do you think? Star Wars, can it go on forever? And are you excited for it to go on forever?
So you're telling me for the rest of my life, I get to see a new Star Wars movie every year?
Yeah.
Isn't that the dream?
Very true.
This is great news. I mean, and I could have maybe kind of predicted this. I mean, why wouldn't they?
Well, as soon as Disney bought Lucasfilm, it's like, okay.
Here's what my question is. I took it as the story is just going to progress on forever. Like, they're never going to reboot it. That's
well,
how
you wouldn't need to. You can introduce new characters and go a new storyline.
So, Rey and Finn and Kylo Ren can be in the next six movies, and then a new generation comes in, and it just keeps going and going and going. This is nothing but great news. Is this from Lucasfilm?
Kathleen Kennedy, Lawrence Kasdan, and Abrams said it's the forever franchise.
Yes, I mean, it should be. It's the one franchise that should go on forever, and every other franchise, it makes sense to reboot, because their characters are their only characters. Like, let's say Iron Man. Like, you can't just keep going on forever with Tony Stark. He's gonna die eventually, you know. So, with Star Wars, you can just, like they're doing with Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren, you can just keep introducing new characters and have the old characters mingle with them in those movies, and then so on and so forth. Just keep it going. So this is great.
Gio, what do you think?
Why do I always have to be the skeptical one?
Oh, God.
Okay. Obviously, good news. All right. But they're going to need to take a careful approach. All right. I love Kathleen Kennedy. She's done a fantastic job. I love her. But she ain't Kevin Feige. And I'll tell you why. Because Kevin Feige, they're both very passionate about their properties. But Kevin Feige knows Marvel like in the back.
Well, he's a comic book fan.
His brain is like an encyclopedia, you know. And whereas Kathleen Kennedy is the more business, you know, smart decision maker, you know, where, you know, it's just, I hope you guys are seeing the difference.
Well, I don't know anything about Kathleen Kennedy, but I've heard that she knows her.
Well, here's the thing. So I totally get what you're saying. Like, I understand, but Disney has some damn good confidence in her because apparently she's going to be running the new Indiana Jones movies.
Well, yeah, and I didn't mean to say
just as she is. So she's slowly becoming Lucasfilm's Kevin Feige.
Yeah, and I have all the confidence. I'm just saying, like, take
but
a careful approach.
I've heard she knows
she's like a J.J. Abrams.
Like,
Like, she's a fan. She's a huge fan.
Know?
Yes, like she's.
I'm asking. I don't know.
Well,
that's what I've heard.
Well, this was a story that came out a while ago, but before George Lucas sold Lucasfilm, he went to her and said, "I want you to run my company."
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's huge. Like, she has got to know her stuff. Like, if that happens, coming from the guy who created the universe and That's some huge stuff.
But it might have been because she's such a great businesswoman. Like, that could have been the reason he went to her. But I've heard that she knows her stuff.
Okay, well, that's great news. And, okay, so you have Han solo movie, Boba Fett.
Well, we don't know. Boba Fett's on the first.
I'm just throwing out options. Like, all right, Han Solo, Boba Fett,
yeah,
Obi-Wan, Knights of the Old Republic, probably.
There's so many options.
Rogue One. But then what after that? Like,
new characters.
There are only so many characters that have been established.
Captain Phasma.
Exactly. Original trilogy.
Kylo Ren.
Captain Phasma becomes as beloved as Boba Fett?
What about Knights of Ren?
Captain Phasma.
Knights of Ren movie.
Yeah, I'm asking you guys where else can they go?
So I know it's not. I know it's not canon
we just
anymore.
like going against him.
I know it's all considered legends now, but you can pick and pull from the botched canon, all the expanded universe stuff.
Darth Plagueis.
There are so many stories out there.
And Palpatine.
Well, no, the one I want to see Knights of Old Republic, but Darth Revan, man, that is the one. Darth Revan, I want to see that guy.
The question I have is, will audiences be attracted to these characters as much as a Han Solo, a Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan Kenobi? How will they respond to
I think for right
characters?
now, anything that says Star Wars on it is being responded to. And as they keep going and the train keeps pulling, it's going to do exactly what Marvel's doing. Was Ant-Man a property that people would want to see, do you think? And look what that did.
No, you're right.
So it's like it's a Star Wars brand. It's the brand that matters. It's not the characters. They can create the most craziest character in the world, but the fact that it's Star Wars makes it that. That's what it makes.
I actually get what you're saying, Gio.
Well, I'm only asking honest questions that anyone else would ask.
Right now, like you say, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Lando, and then you say Finn, Kylo Ren. It's such a big difference as far as how much the characters mean to us fans.
Right.
But here's the thing: there's 10-year-old kids that are going to go watch The Force Awakens, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to get attached to Finn and Rey, just like we got attached to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Luke and all of them. So, and they're going to get older, and they're going to be our age when the next trilogy comes out. So it's generations, man. They're just going to keep going. So what Luke and Han and Leia mean to us, Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren that's what it's going to mean the same to that generation.
Gotcha.
You
know what? That makes
I see all your points. They're awesome, and I think it's obviously, like they said, it's the forever franchise. It can literally go on. The galaxy is so huge. There's so many stories to tell.
I hope they never reboot it.
I don't think they will. I think they're going to be really, really smart about this, because why would you need to? There's no need to.
That would make me throw up.
There's no need to reboot them.
And to go on your point, I think we all feel bad for the millennials because they had to grow up with Jake Lloyd as Anakin and Jar Jar Binks.
Now they're finally getting something.
We're going to get into this, but they got Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan, which is not horrible.
He's Obi-Wan.
And
he is Obi-Wan.
And if they're going to do the Obi-Wan trilogy or even one spin-off movie, he better be Obi-Wan Kenobi.
He'll be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. So as for the whole article and the whole interview, I highly recommend going over to Collider and checking it out. There's a whole bunch of goodies in the entire article, as well as it even includes Lawrence Kasdan going to George Lucas and talking about Han Solo for a Han Solo movie again. This was after Star Wars was bought by Disney. So I highly going over to check it out. It's a great piece. But we're going to move on to another bit of news. It has to do with George Lucas's Star Wars, which has been a hot topic as of late. I'm going to throw it over to Gio, and he's going to read some stuff off that's a little bit surprising, a little bit too.
Yeah, poor George. Interesting timing, just as The Force Awakens is less than a month away from releasing. So he gave an interview where he talked about how he didn't want to make any more mainstream movies because of the reception that he got from the studio about his Star Wars, and partially because of the fans. So I'm going to paraphrase what he said in his interview. He says, I'm curious that the term force doesn't get mixed into some gargly goop. That's what he said. And then he says, I hope that these new Star Wars films don't go more in. They're more than just spaceships. They're more.
They're not popcorn movies.
Yes. And then he said, you go to make a movie and get criticized. People try and make decisions before you even do. Not much fun. You can't experiment. You have to do everything a certain way. I mean, he wants to do experimental films, but no one wants to see experimental films. And that leads to him directing movies that won't be
wide released,
because people don't have an interest in experimental films anymore. It's all about, brands and whatnot, and taking the safe option. And this is something that we've heard time and time again. So this is the first part. Do you want to split it into two?
No, but we'll go ahead and just go all together. Yeah, we'll talk about it all
And
together.
then he said for as far as his little feud with Disney that he eventually left, the issue was ultimately that they looked at the stories and they said, we want to make something for the fans. And then Lucas says, people don't actually realize it's actually a good soap opera and it's all about family problems, Star Wars. It's not about spaceships. So they decided they didn't want to use those stories, his stories. They decided they were going to do their own thing. So I decided, fine, I'll go my way and I'll let them go their way.
Yeah, well,
It's a lot.
It seems, obviously it's tough to hear the creator of one of the greatest, probably the greatest franchise of all time, this kind of feeling towards it.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously seems hurt, and not just from Disney and all the stuff that went down between them, but because of the kind of reception that the prequels got. And Jacob, what do you think? Hearing the comments, any thoughts? What are your initial thoughts on it?
I get what he's saying, but it just look. I love George Lucas. He gave us Star Wars.
He's the Godfather, man.
I'll forever be grateful for what he's done, but it sounds like he's just whining to me. He's just complaining. He's upset. Like, if you're going to be a director and you're going to work in Hollywood, it's a dog-eat-dog world. If you can't handle criticism, and you have to be able to, if you're a creative worker, and whether you're writing or directing, even if you make the worst piece of crap and you get bashed for it, if you're not strong enough to take that criticism and then learn from it and then come back from it and be a better person or a better director or a better writer, then you don't belong in this industry. And like I said, creatively, he's the greatest mastermind we've ever had in this business, but maybe he shouldn't be directing movies. Maybe he shouldn't be in charge of a franchise. But he's blaming, it sounds like he's blaming critics, the fans, and the studio for his failures. And it's not fair. He should take responsibility for where he failed, and he should own it. Yeah,
and it seems like he fully thinks that, and I give him credit, that he thinks that he was doing the Star Wars right by the prequels, and he was telling the right stories and whatnot, giving the fans what they wanted and all that, but the movies were bad. So, like Jacob's saying, you have to take the credit for it. You can't make excuses and blame other people. You're the one behind it. Like, you have to take responsibility for it. And I get that he's hurt, and you know what? With a property like this, people are gonna get pissed off by it, and you're just gonna have to be able to take it. And obviously, the whole situation with the prequels led to worse things with Disney and Lucasfilm and all that kind of stuff, which sucks. But you can't always stay on something too long. Like, there's that great quote from The Dark Knight: You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
And that applies to this.
You have to,
you
can't stay on it too long, or good things only last so long. So his obviously only lasted 3 movies, maybe 3.5 if you count Revenge of the Sith as okay or good. But I think it's better that it's in someone else's hands now, because it needs to go into someone else's imagination and whatnot. It just sucks that it got down to this, because George Lucas, without him, who knows where movies would be today. Like, if you talk to so many filmmakers, they reference Star Wars as what got them into movies. Like, we wouldn't have a J.J. Abrams today. We wouldn't have a Kathleen Kennedy or a Colin Trevorrow or something like that.
We wouldn't have the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
There wouldn't be anything.
Exactly.
So he definitely deserves, obviously the respect, but he can't be making excuses for what happened with the prequels and everything else that went down.
I will say this though, like even though we all recognize the prequels, some of them are really bad, some of them are all right depending on who you ask. But if it were up to me, I would not erase them from history.
A lot of people have been lately.
Not.
They've been really expressing their feeling towards the prequels getting remade. It's like remake
I would not
them
want that.
just from a different director. And why? They're still Star Wars,
right?
They're canon.
Well, like I said,
there.
I don't want anything to be rebooted in Star Wars at all. But I just mean like if you guys. So, for example, the word Sith was not used in the original trilogy, and how often do we use the word Sith? We would not have that.
Well, it's Sith and Jedi.
It is Star Wars.
Sith and Jedi.
And you would not have that if it wasn't for the prequels. You would never got Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, which now is probably going to lead to an Obi-Wan spinoff. You would never get that. I actually think Qui-Gon Jinn is a great character. We never would have had him. We never would have had Darth Maul, who carries on. We never would have had Clone Wars. We never would have had Rebels. So I think we owe a lot as Star Wars fans to the prequels. We can recognize that they're bad films, but we owe a lot to the prequels.
Yeah, and we're going to definitely get into that next. Any final thoughts on the two news topics?
Yeah. One thing I will never hate George Lucas for is him experimenting with Star Wars, trying to make something new. Obviously, there were a lot of misses and hits with the prequels, but pod racing,
The Darth Maul fight. Very end.
That kind of stuff. That's a result of experimenting. So I totally understand with his comments about that, about people not really wanting to see experiment anymore. They're just like, no, just stick to what Star Wars is. Well, if you want this universe to expand, you have to experiment a little bit. We're seeing Kylo Ren's new lightsaber,
and that's all from Darth Maul's double-sided lightsaber.
Correct. Yeah.
You wouldn't have a crossguard without the double side.
Yes. Yeah, so don't be afraid of change. I'm not saying that it's all going to work out, but, without it, without experimenting, we wouldn't have Star Wars. And Lucas, in his comments, he says a lot of stuff that's a bit ironic. So he says, I don't want the Force to get mixed into some gargly goo. Do we remember metachlorians and the living Force? And he says, it's not about spaceships. What do we see in Phantom Menace and Episode 2?
There's tons of stuff.
A lot of spaceships.
There's tons of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So,
it's their excuses. Ultimately, it's all excuses.
He just has so much hate inside of him.
Yes, and it sucks that it's gotten like that because 40 years ago, the guy was a god. And he still can be considered, he still is, but the fact that all this stuff has gone down over the last 10, 15 years, it kind of tarnishes a lot of it, which kind of sucks. But we're going to move on now. Check on the article over on Collider. They really got into deep detail about it. Some good stuff over there. We're going to move on to our reviews. We're going to start with the first prequel back in 1999, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The movie that, for us three, it was the beginning of an entire new Star Wars generation.
Yeah.
We weren't there when the originals came out, so to see a Star Wars movie in theaters, it's pretty exciting to say, I would say. So we're just going to start. We're going to go through, our first memory of watching the film for the first time and what our reaction was. Then we're going to jump into some positive negatives, and then we're going to go towards how the perception of the movie has changed over the years as we've grown older and become more movie fans since its release, 15 years ago, 14 years ago?
16 years
16 years ago. There you go. So, Gio, we're going to start with you, man. Do you have a first memory of watching the prequel, maybe, or Episode 1 in theater or maybe on home video? And what was your first reaction to it?
Yep, I had my little kids pack, which had popcorn, soda, and candy, and I was sitting to the left of the movie theater, and wow, it was amazing. Like, it was during a time where I was the same age as Anakin in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
9 years old. I didn't care about the acting. I didn't watch a movie for acting or anything like that. It was just all visual spectacle, and that's the best thing about the prequels are the visuals. They're amazing. And when you're a kid,
it started a revolution.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing, especially in 1999. It was something that was never around.
Yeah, and when you're a kid, you're just looking at all this and you're just amazed. You know, you're in another world. The lightsaber fights, the pod racing, and all that. So my first impression, I'm not going to talk about the story or plot because that's something I didn't pay attention to. It was just how beautiful the film was on the big screen. It was unlike anything we've really seen, you know. And it really made us little kids, like, because, I mean, for me, like, yeah, Empire Strikes Back, seeing AT walkers and all that was cool, but it doesn't compare to seeing the pod racing or seeing these
lightsabers fighting, like, yeah, especially as kids.
The droid armies,
yes.
The underwater sea world, you know, amazing.
I don't remember seeing it in theaters. I don't remember if I did or not.
Wow.
And that's actually for 1 and 2. My dad might remember. He might be able to tell me that he took me, but I'm not sure. But as for watching it, I mean, same with you, Gio. It was something so cool. When you're a kid and you're seeing something like that on the big screen, it just makes you smile and like laugh and have all kinds of fun, and it's an experience. And you know, that's kind of what we go to the movies for. And back in 1999 when that movie came out, I mean, it was such a cool movie to see as a younger kid, and seeing this world of pod racing and creatures and sand planets and spaceships and lightsabers and droids. It's like, it was such a cool world to jump into when you're 9, 10, 11 years old. It was a great time. And, you know, I'll never forget that memory, because although the original trilogy is my first experience of Star Wars, and it always will be, that's like kind of that's the real experience, because that movie came out while I was alive. The original trilogy didn't. Like, I had to go back to watch them.
Exactly.
So they'll always, even though, you know, they're not good movies, and but it's still going to hold a special place in me, just because of the experience that it was when I was younger. Jacob, what about you? First experience? Do you remember watching it in theater, and what was your reaction to it?
So I do remember going to see it. I remember the drive to the theater.
Nice.
Oh man.
So I grew up on Star Wars like you. I saw the original trilogy before I saw the prequels. Obviously, I had all my dad's old toys when he was a kid. I had all the, like, the Millennium Falcon and everything. I lost them all.
I got the VHS. You guys have seen them. I got the VHS tapes behind me, man.
Like, I wish I can go back in time and like save all those toys, but yeah, I remember the drive to the theater, and this is my first experience of like event film, like
exactly
getting hyped up, going to a movie.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for. See, it was the same thing with Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I think that can go with 3 of us.
They all came out around the same time, the Star Wars prequels and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, like, and every year we were going to see one of those movies, like, same drive to the theater, and I remember it. And like, I wouldn't love movies today. So there's something to say in that. Like, imagine if they never would have came out, you would probably not be who you are today.
It'd be very different. Very different.
So, and when you're a kid, you're not paying attention to story and plot and good acting. Mm-hmm. You're not paying attention to the politics.
You're just experiencing
the political aspect of the movie and all that stuff. And so, like, all that stuff just goes over your head as a kid. So watching these movies as a kid, they were my favorite movies as a kid. There's no question. Like, nothing even came close. I mean, that and Lord of the Rings. So as a kid, I absolutely loved the Phantom Menace. To me, like, it's tough to say now because it's total opposite. But I actually liked the prequels more when I was a kid, because
they're what you experienced.
And I saw it in the theater, and everything visually looked new and amazing. The special effects were better, the visuals were better. So, you know, and that's all I paid attention to as a kid. I didn't know what the dialogue meant. So, yeah, it was my first experience of being a fanboy, and you know, it made me who I am today. So I will forever be grateful for that, and nothing but good memories watching them as a kid.
Yeah, I definitely can. I can agree with you for sure. So we're gonna jump into some positives. Who knows if there will be a little, we don't know.
So this is what we think now.
Yes, this is what we think now.
Because we've all watched them multiple times.
We've seen them multiple times over the
as
years.
Adults.
And our perception of them has definitely changed over the years. So this is currently, we all watched them this week. We sat down and checked them out. So we are going to jump into some positives of the film, what we noticed. Jake, I'm going to go right back to you. Some of the major positives that stood out to you, things that you really loved about the film, if any. I know there are a few. I can guess one for sure. But just go ahead and sound off, man.
But and this is me watching them today.
Yes,
the stuff that I like even the visual effects.
They're amazing.
They still hold up.
Yeah.
Turn off the lights, throw it on a big screen TV.
Pod racing.
It looks incredible. Surround sound system, those pod races.
Yeah.
Oh
well,
how do you not enjoy that?
The great thing about the pod race is the camera. It's first person.
I know.
You literally feel like you're sitting in a pod.
Yes.
So, the visual effects, and it's not fair to say that the visual effects are way better than the original because it's 30 years later,
yes, yeah.
or 20-something years later. So it's not fair, but it's true. These special effects revolutionized movies and took it a huge jump.
Well, if you go, Collider Movie Talk, which we watch every day, John Campia, he always says he works at a visual company. He's worked at a special effects company.
He used to go see it.
He watched it 19 times in theater because of the effects.
Wow.
That's the kind of revolution. It started back in the late 90s.
It changed everything for movies as far as special effects go. So that's a huge positive, obviously. I know a lot of people say the lightsaber duels, especially the one at the end with Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan, it looks so formulaic, they
choreographed.
Yeah. But I love
They're still good.
It's so amazing. So for me, even though I love every single lightsaber battle in the history of Star Wars, but the ones in the original trilogy, it was just so slow and they're just they're walking around and looking at each other and they take a swing. It's all.
I feel like they didn't really know what to do because it was the first time they've really done something like that before.
So I'm just gonna specifically talk about the end battle scene. It's incredible.
The tension, the music, it's all there. Especially watching it now, we didn't notice it back then when we first saw it as kids, but now when you watch it,
and
the tension
the way
is there.
Those, I don't know what they were called, but those invisible force
shields,
fields,
force fields,
and Obi-Wan's trying to get to him, but how powerful is Darth Maul if they both have to fight him? They can barely take him on. People don't realize how powerful Darth Maul is. Qui-Gon Jinn is a Jedi Knight, top of the line Jedi.
Master. He's a master.
And him and his Padawan couldn't fight Darth Maul. That says something. Leads me to my next positive. Darth Maul is incredible. The first, when you first see Darth Maul,
Ray Park.
Scared. You're scared.
Just by his looks, he's got the red face with the horns. The look is beautiful.
And even today, I watch it today, he looks badass. There's no denying that. And his black robe and the double-sided lightsaber, man. How incredible is that? And then just Obi-Wan Kenobi's my favorite character in Star Wars, whether it's Alec Guinness or Ewan McGregor playing him. And I still think Ewan McGregor was perfect choice to play young Obi-Wan. I really enjoy him and Qui-Gon Jinn, their master Padawan relationship. And it sucks it only lasted one movie, spoiler. But
it's been out for 16 years.
Everyone knows, but I enjoyed their relationship a lot more than Obi-Wan and Anakin in the next two movies. So just those two actors playing those two characters was a huge positive for me.
Well, I'm gonna jump back to something for a second. So you're saying how powerful is Maul because he took on both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
How powerful is Obi-Wan for him to beat him?
Yeah, see, that's crazy to think about.
As a Padawan, not even a Jedi Knight or a Master. He's a Padawan.
I knew that, but when I was saying that, I wasn't even considering
thinking about it now, how powerful is this guy?
It was kind of an unexpected, even full Obi-Wan beat Darth Maul.
You weren't expecting it.
I'm saying Darth Maul didn't expect that.
Yeah, yes.
So he kind of caught him off guard, and I don't want to say it's a sucker punch or a cheap shot. It wasn't. I mean,
he beat him straight up.
Darth Maul had the high ground, but
We'll get to that a lot later.
No, you're absolutely right, and you know, who's to say who the most powerful Jedi ever was? You know, I mean, Anakin, Obi-Wan. I mean, it could be Obi-Wan.
Well, so we didn't know this at the time, but if you watch the 3 prequels now, would you consider that was the leading off point for Obi-Wan becoming the second most powerful Jedi in the universe behind Yoda? Do you think he's behind Yoda, like right behind him as most powerful? As a master Jedi
ever? Well, here's the thing, Anakin.
Do you think Anakin was more powerful than him as a Jedi?
No, but as a Sith, yes.
Oh, okay, I'm saying as Jedi though, as a Jedi.
No, I mean, I have a feeling that Luke in Episode 7 is going to be maybe as powerful or more powerful than Obi-Wan ever was.
What about you? Do you think he'll be more powerful than Yoda? He's been sitting on the Force for 30 years.
I don't know, because it's different because he never got proper training.
It's true.
So it's way different. But yeah, I'll say Obi-Wan's the most powerful. I mean, Qui-Gon probably could have been.
Yeah.
But Obi-Wan is probably the most powerful Jedi behind Yoda until we'll see what Luke's up to.
So are those all your positives?
Yeah, those are my positives.
All right, Gio.
Just the music, the scores.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah, Duel of Fates.
Beep.
Amazing.
All right, Gio, what do you got? Any positives? I know you want to talk about this stuff.
What can I say that already hasn't been said?
Well, your positives, you can say the same thing.
Well, a lot of it's gonna be the same thing. I'll say the build up to the droid and Gungan fight. It starts off with the Gungans walking through the fog
on
like
Naboo.
We saw in the teaser trailer, and then the Gungans are standing there, and then you slowly see these 3 ships come up from over the hill, and then very slowly, no music, all these droids come out one by one, and these Gungans are like, we're fucked. You know, it's like incredible. I loved it. Yeah, the pod racing, like the sound effects, you know, how incredible are they? You know, just, you know, especially God, what's his name? What's his name? The main guy,
the bad one.
Yeah, the one.
Anakin's
rival.
Is it Bolsa or what is it?
Sebulba. There you go. Nice call.
His pod racing thing is
his pod racer. His pod.
Pod racer.
His pod
is incredible.
Yeah, it's dope.
It's Sebulba.
Sebulba. Yeah, there you go.
Sebulba. Yeah. Qui-Gon, his chemistry with Obi-Wan. I wanted to see more of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you talk about, like, you know, from a film that goes from Alec Guinness as like a, you know, you go from Alec Guinness to Liam Neeson, you know, not a bad choice, you know, like, what else? Lightsaber duels were amazing. The music was amazing. You know, the visuals, how could you know, not talk about the visuals and how incredible that was. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much all going to echo the same thing. I mean,
yeah.
The visuals obviously were something that kicked off a revolution as far as movies go, and they're beautiful. They definitely hold up today. The pod race is definitely one of the standouts. It was so much fun and intense and exciting, and like I said before, the camera when you're sitting first person is really cool.
Amazing.
It's really cool to see. You really feel like you're there, especially with the surround sound like Jacob was saying. Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, obviously the lightsabers, the fighting. That's what a lot of people go to Star Wars for. That's what they know Star Wars for, is the lightsabers, the duels. The standout is definitely Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon against Maul at the very end. Probably what many consider the best fight out of the entire prequel trilogy. It stands out. It's very strong. And like you guys said, the Obi-Wan Qui-Gon relationship is strong. It's very good. And that's something we could see in the future. If they do an Obi-Wan trilogy or standalone movie, we know that Qui-Gon, he found the afterlife. He found out how to become a Force. Oh, we don't know if he's a Force ghost or not, but he found out how to become immortal. So
totally could be though.
Yeah, so we could end up seeing him again in Obi-Wan.
So down.
It would be
just
so
be
cool.
Like how Luke had Obi-Wan.
That would be
in
so
the
cool.
Original trilogy.
Yeah, see Liam Neeson and
you
Ewan
hear his
McGregor back
voice?
again. That would be so cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, there are things that are definitely positive from the original trilogy or from their episode 1, but they are all the same for a lot of people. So there aren't a lot of things that differ between us, which is going to jump us right into our negatives. Gio, I'm going to go back to you. I know you probably got a bunch, so why don't you go ahead and sound off, man? What are your negatives for the Phantom Menace?
The movie's too long. First of all, yeah.
How long is it?
It's like 2 hours and 20.
I'll check on that.
5 minutes.
That's typical for an Avengers movie's that long.
Well, yeah, but when there's lots of moments that'll like drag out, it'll just like it'll make a movie seem a lot longer. Where as Avengers, it's bam, 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 bam.
Also, it's long and it feels long.
It feels long.
It's 2 hours and 16 minutes.
Yeah, it feels long. Yeah, it feels longer than that.
See, that's even worse if you like said it was longer. You thought it was longer.
Yeah. So. Jake Lloyd, the little kid.
He plays young Anakin, yes.
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, I didn't mind it. I was a kid too, But when you grow up, you're just like, good God, he ain't no that kid from the Home Alone or Haley Joel Osment, as a kid. Like that guy is just and then Jar Jar Binks, like, we all hate Jar Jar Binks, every time he speaks, it's just what else? Negatives, they killed Darth Maul too.
They killed Maul too early. Yeah. He would have been a great villain throughout the trilogy.
He could have been the Darth Vader.
Or the first two, I should say. Because the third one is about Darth Vader. It's about him turning.
True.
So
yeah, I mean, there's no reason to think he couldn't have been around for Attack of the Clones,
Well, he kind of was, though.
Even though he's really not dead.
He was there for the Attack of the Clones, really.
Not in the movie.
Not in the movie, but he was there.
Was he?
Well, if you watch the anime show Clone Wars.
Clone Wars,
yeah.
Around. But I haven't got to that point in Clone Wars yet. But I know he's alive.
Spoiler.
Still.
Sorry, guys.
We know this. But we're talking about the movies.
Yes.
Obviously. Darth Maul, as far as we knew, he was dead. So.
Yeah. And one thing that Christian Harloff of Collider said was he enjoyed how they tried to go all political with the trade and the tax and all that kind of stuff.
Very governmental.
And I agree with him, but I guess the execution of it just wasn't as good as it could have been. It was just like, okay, come on, get on with it. Go ahead. Let's see.
Yeah, Jake's dogs are barking in the background. It's all good though.
I'm like, are we gonna pause or what?
Nah, it's cool. Everyone loves dogs, right?
Right. Let's see what else. You know what? I know I have more, but I'm kind of stuck right now.
Let me ask you this: what about
list all the negatives?
What about
I know they're there, and when somebody mentions them, I'm like, yeah, that's a negative. But God.
What do you think about Padme?
What do you mean? You talking about the twist or just Padme?
Do you like her introduction to begin with in the movie? Like the way they created or brought her into the movie, and then kind of just like, do you like her character, or was she just kind of like a one-off, or you don't care about her too much, or?
No, I like her character. I mean, when I first saw the Phantom Menace and saw the twist, I was like, oh, whoa, I didn't see that coming. I thought you were just like,
yeah,
her right-hand lady or whatnot. I didn't mind her. She was at times a little bit too whiny, but that's something that you find a lot of in these Star Wars films, is how whiny people are. But then again, you got to consider the director. Oh, negative dialogue. Let's talk about dialogue. Let's talk about direction. Let's talk about George Lucas. It really showed that he didn't put enough attention to detail with the movie. And then the performances. As much as we want to blame the actors, we have to give some blame to George Lucas as a director.
Well, he's given direction to the actors.
Yeah.
Like they can't do anything without the direction.
And it's only the experienced veteran actors who can kind of pull through, like Liam Neeson. Samuel Jackson for his short, and
Ewan McGregor, like
Ewan
throughout
McGregor.
the trilogy, like
Yeah.
he gave it his all. I thought
Yeah.
He was the best spot of the prequel
the whole trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are some of my negatives.
All right, Jacob. Well, I know you probably got some similar negatives, but anything else you want to add in there?
This movie's perfect. What do you mean?
Yeah.
It's a 10 out of 10. Yeah, I mean, I get why he had the political aspect in there, but it just didn't work. Those scenes bored the hell out of me in all the movies.
Yeah, the pacing was pretty bad.
Like I didn't care about that. Was not in the original trilogy. Nothing like that. It was about the characters, and he tried to emphasize like, oh, they're trying to cut off the trade routes to Naboo, and like nobody really cares. But I don't know what he was going for. If he thought that was clever, but I mean, it was cool. It's a cool idea, like to involve politics. It makes sense for the time era where the story's taking place, because in the original trilogy, like there's no real like legit government system set up. Everything's like, the Empire runs everything,
Yeah, he was trying to give us a backstory about how the universe was before the Empire.
Yeah, and everything was all structured
Yes.
and organized, and it was a good idea, but the execution was
Yes.
just not handled right. Like, Padme floating on a little thing, and it just didn't make sense. And you have to talk about Jar Jar Binks when you're talking about the negatives. Like it's, as a kid, I mean, you don't even, like I said, you don't know what's good or bad when you're a kid. Like, and Jar Jar Binks was made for kids. Like,
He tried to give the Star Wars prequels a comedic relief, almost similar to what Han and Chewie were in the originals, but he did it terribly.
so was Jar Jar supposed to be Chewie's replacement? Like,
I wouldn't say
Not
Chewie's
a
replacement,
direct,
but
but-
a comedic relief replacement.
yeah, and it's absolutely horrible. Everything he says, and his voice, the way he looks, it's disturbing. Like, it makes me uncomfortable watching him on screen. I wish I could watch a version of the movie without him in it. Like, because part of me loves this movie, part of me does, and like when I'm watching Jar Jar Binks, it makes me want to throw up. So, and I'll go to Padme. I'm not going to talk about the acting, because what can you do when George Lucas, he didn't care about shooting the scenes at all. He wanted to get the shots and then go work on the visual effects and build everything around those shots. He didn't want to focus on, actually shooting the scene and getting the performance out of the actor. So, and you could see it, like no one's really acting. Like, they're just, especially Natalie Portman. Even though I love Natalie Portman, I think she's a great actress, but she was not given much to work with during this time. And I don't understand, like, look, Leia was believable as a badass because she, you didn't really know her background, and like maybe,
Well, she was fleshed out over time, and you kind of figured who she was.
and and she seemed believable when she would take action and be involved in like saving the boys or helping the boys out. But in the end of Phantom Menace, in the third act, Padme's leading a team with her gun and like, pew, like shooting people. Like, where did you learn how to do that? Like, all of a sudden you can lead a team into infiltrate a building, and like you're shooting droids who, by the way, the droids are worse than the stormtroopers. These are robots who, like, they should have an aim locked on automatically to people, and they're missing everybody, and Padme's just shooting them. So that was just not handled well. I think they made a mistake. Look, I don't blame Jake Lloyd. How can you blame a young kid if you can't blame him? It's not his fault whatsoever. If you're a little kid and you can be cast in Star Wars, you're gonna do it. But they should have never went with that young of Anakin anyway. Imagine if they would have started with a 16-year-old Anakin.
Well, Attack of the Clones style Anakin.
Yeah, or 18-year-old Anakin.
Yeah.
Like, just, that would have been so awesome. Like, have him, you could have still had him the same way, kind of whiny, but like pissed off a little bit. But
Well, it could have been. You could have started him almost to where the point Obi was in the Phantom Menace.
yeah,
So
or
Padawan.
even Luke in A New Hope.
Yeah,
Like,
there you go.
So, but I think I don't know what everything behind it was, but if you think about it, even Anakin at 10 or 11 was too young to begin his Jedi training. So maybe that was why. Maybe them taking an 18-year-old to the Jedi Council, like, I need to train him.
Well, you mean too old, right?
Yeah, did I say too young?
Yes.
Oh, my bad. I meant he was at 10 or 11. He was too old to start his training. So imagine if Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan brought an 18-year-old. They would have been like, no way. They were considering it with a 10 or 11-year-old, but 18-year-old, they would have been like, no way. So for those rules he established, it made sense. But they should have never went with that young of an Anakin. And, I mean, there's just the whole structure of the story is just bad. It didn't even make sense. Like, and the midichlorians, you have to explain, like, the way Alec Guinness explains the Force in A New Hope, that's all you need to know. And you didn't have to explain midichlorians. You didn't have to.
The living Force.
Yeah. So and what? Anakin didn't have a father. Like, he was just born. Like,
yeah.
So did Palpatine create him? Did Plagueis create him? We don't know. So it's just.
Did the Force create him?
Like, so Anakin is the first Skywalker, right?
Well, after Shmi. Well, we don't exactly know. Where did Shmi get her last name from?
Yeah, who is?
Is it hers or is it her or some dude?
Okay, well then, she said she's a virgin, right? He's not those exact words, but she implied that by saying that.
Yes.
There's no father, she said.
Yes.
So that doesn't make sense to me. Were they just implying that?
They're implying that he was created by something,
like some higher power. So
yes.
Yeah, I don't know though. There's a lot of things to bag on with the prequels, but for me, and just I don't know, the battle scene at the end, it didn't really make sense. Like, it was trying to show like 3 or 4 different battles going on, and that works sometimes. Like, they do that in the original trilogy a lot.
Yes.
But it just, I didn't care about any of the battles other than the lightsaber duel. So those are my negatives.
Yeah, I'll echo everything pretty much you guys all said. I mean, there's from Jar Jar Binks to the way the story was structured to the twist that didn't really twist too well, and the droids being more stormtroopers who were terrible at aim and you get shot really easily. It's like, okay, I guess it's believable for so long.
I think the stormtroopers are actually worse than the droids, though. I mean,
they probably are.
You don't get any worse than getting rocks thrown at you by Ewoks.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. I'll even say that I didn't like the whole Federation side of it. Like, they were an okay villain, I guess.
The Separatists.
Yeah, Separatists. Excuse me,
well,
Separatists.
Yeah.
It didn't really work too well. Like, it bored me a little bit. Like, I didn't want to hear. Like you said, it was boring.
Yeah, they were horrible.
Like, actually. I wanted to see like real action, stuff in the stars and lightsabers and stuff that the original trilogy had, but this movie didn't have. There was one scene like that, and it was on ground as a pod race. Even like where Anakin is in a fighter jet, it's like, okay, this kid's in a fighter jet fighting alongside other fighters.
Exactly.
Like,
I was gonna mention that.
I get that he's the all force and all that kind of stuff, but he's a 10-year-old kid. Like, come on.
Hey, no humans could fly pod race.
Very true, but maybe R2-D2 flew him. I don't know.
Hey,
but
we as kids, we were like, yeah,
that's
of course, we were awesome. Of course,
yeah.
Yes. But I mean, it is what it is. It's Star Wars. I understand what he tried to do. I understand what the movie tried to do, what it tried to do. But like Jacob said, the execution just was not good. There were moments of glory. I mean, everything involving Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan I thought was really good. There was obviously the fight scene at the very end, but it didn't feel like Star Wars. There was too much going on. There was too much, like, they tried to put too much into one movie to make it bigger because there's more special effects and it's 20 years in the future, so we can do this, this, and this, and just go back to basics. Like, if you went back to basics to what the originals were, you could have gotten a really, really good movie. But obviously it didn't happen. And, we can go on this forever, but we're going to move on to Archie. You got something to say?
I have 2 more positives and a negative.
Okay.
Because it just comes to me later on.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the positives is the look of when we first see the Jedi Council. And everyone there sitting in their places like,
That's cool.
That's
I
probably
mean,
the only time we saw the entire council sitting there.
That's cool because we
together.
hear about the Jedi Council a little bit when Yoda talks about it.
Yes.
And
the Jedi Order.
The Jedi Order,
yes.
not Council. But
and we finally see it in. Yeah.
See, there's great things about these
see
movies.
them in their
It's a great setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that leads me to the set designs of the course when they're in the room debating and the circular where they're all sitting and what's it called?
Where they had the political meetings.
The political.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, with all the.
No, that was cool.
All the circles. That's a little cool, neat design.
It's different. Like you never seen that before. So
Yeah.
it was cool.
And then my one negative was when the old chancellor says, "We'll go send someone to investigate Naboo," and they're like, "No, send someone now." And like, "No, you're gonna lose your powers because you're the chancellor." And it's like, what? You're gonna lose your powers just because of that? Like, I felt a little bit of like, just because you wanted to move the plot along.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on to. We're gonna talk about.
Attack of the Clones.
No, we're gonna talk about how the movie has changed over the years.
Yeah.
Okay. Just real quick, we're gonna go for it just a little bit.
Jacob's so ready to move on.
Yeah, he's ready to move on from the Phantom Menace. Just real quick, Jacob, how has the movie changed over the last 15 years, watching it over and over again? And as we do every day, we're involved with the movie business, so we write movie reviews and stuff like that. How has your view changed of the movie?
I mean, it went from being my favorite movie ever as a kid to a horrible, horrible film. That's all it is. It's tough because, like I said, there's so many elements that have stuck with me, and it doesn't, like, if we were to make a guilty pleasure list, like, these are at the top, no matter what. These Star Wars prequels are at the top, and it's almost unfair. Like, I don't even want to put them on my list because no other guilty pleasure movie is going to come close because I still love these movies no matter what. So how they changed, I've grown up. I've learned a lot more about movies. I can recognize what's good, what I think is good, and what I think is bad. So I've just realized it's almost like the scenes that are bad, like the in-between scenes of, like, other than,
the downtime,
like, and the Jar Jar Binks scenes, like, they're almost unwatchable. Like, I can't even pay attention. Like, it's disturbing for me to watch.
Yeah.
I want to watch. Like, I'm gonna watch these movies again multiple times throughout my life. I'm gonna show my kids them, my potential kids. I don't have any kids right now, but I'm just speaking hypothetically. Like, I'm never gonna pretend they don't exist or anything. So I'm able to recognize that they're bad movies, and like, I wish I could just start the movie and watch the cool stuff and not watch the bad stuff. Just start with the Jedi Council scene, skip to the pod race, then
skip the Darth Maul scene.
Skip to all the Darth Maul scenes, and then just focus on the Darth Maul battle at the end and forget all the other stuff, and we'll be fine. It'll be a great movie.
There's a version of that online, guys. It's called,
I heard
it's called the Phantom Edit on
I heard
YouTube.
that there is.
Yep.
I got to check that out.
All right, Gio. Well, how has your view of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, changed over the years? What do you think about it now compared to what you did back then?
Not all of the acting is, good. As we grow up, we're like that little boy we thought was cool because,
He became a Jedi, pod race, all that kind of stuff.
Nah. Jar Jar Binks, nah, he ain't funny. The visual effects still hold up. And I'll say that some of the you appreciate things like the lightsaber battles more, especially how much Ray Park gave to the role of Darth Maul.
Yeah, definitely.
Just his commitment. You view Qui-Gon Jinn as more than just, like the wise old guy. Like, this guy's really intelligent,
He's a true Jedi
He really does care, and it makes me wonder if, had he lived, would Anakin have turned to the dark side?
It would have been maybe a lot different if Qui-Gon.
Big question.
Because Qui-Gon was going to train him.
Well, Obi-Wan had never actually finished his training.
Yeah.
He became a master right away. Or not a master, but he had a Padawan directly after Qui-Gon died. He took Anakin under his wing.
Qui-Gon says Obi-Wan's ready.
Yeah. Well, he hadn't taken his trials yet, though.
Yeah.
So he never actually finished.
Man, you just confirmed that Ezra is going to be in the dark side now for Rebels. You just... Because Kanan didn't finish his...
Well, but that...
It's too late, buddy. Yeah, I mean, and then a lot of what Jacob said, and you also appreciate, the music more now, because you're like...
The music's, it's great. It's still great.
Because as we grow up, we like less things about Star Wars, but the music still holds there, and that's that's credit to John Williams,
The music is incredible.
Yeah, it's just as good, if not... It can stand right there with the originals, John Williams, yeah. And I mean that's pretty much it,
Yeah, I'll pretty much the same thing. I mean, I loved it as a kid, and over the years, it's just I've come to learn that it's not a good movie. It's unfortunate because I've loved it growing up through the years, but as I've grown to learn more about the film and the story and the structure and dialogue, all that kind of stuff, it's unfortunate that it's not as good as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And it still is Star Wars, and I'm always going to watch it because it is Star Wars. But if this came out now, the same exact movie came out now, I would walk out of the theater extremely disappointed, and it would be super upsetting, and I would have no faith in what Star Wars was doing. But that's all in the past, and even though it is a bad movie, it's still Star Wars, and it always will be Star Wars. So it's always going to hold a special place with me, especially because it is the kind of experience I had with it when I was a kid. But yeah, the perception has definitely changed on the Phantom Menace. So we're going to move on to Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones. So this one came out just a few years later. George Lucas still behind the camera. It jumped time frame, I want to say, like, what do you think? 6, 7 years?
No, it jumped 10 years.
It jumped 10 years, okay.
Full 10 years.
So it jumped 10 years, and we see Anakin. He is now full-blown Padawan under the guidance of long-haired Obi-Wan and big beard.
Yep.
A total badass, as always. And so, Gio, let me start with you, man. What was your first memory of watching Star Wars in theater or Attack of the Clones per se? What'd you think?
Oh man, it's funny how I remember just how bored I was watching this movie. Honestly,
okay.
Outside of the action
even as a
scenes,
kid?
outside of the action scenes, like for me, the beginning was boring. I was like, man, so they finally pull out their lightsabers to kill the two little slugs things. Yeah. Like, yeah, lightsabers, and like they put it back in there. I'm like, damn it! Like, and then like it goes on and on up until when
you didn't like the chase scene?
Jango Fett. No, I thought it was
the chase. I thought the chase scene was cool. I'm with you on that one. I thought it was pretty cool.
I didn't like the slugs in the room.
No, that was stupid.
The chase scene was.
The chase scene was boring.
I loved it.
I love when he jumps out. We'll get to that later, actually.
Yeah.
We'll get to
So it was mostly boring. Like, and then the love thing. I didn't care about the love thing. I was 11 years old at the time. I was just like, what is?
Well, we'll get to your negatives.
No, I'm trying to say like.
Okay.
He's saying what he thought as a kid.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like,
okay.
Yeah, this is how he perceived it as a kid.
What made it boring, And then the end kind of saved it for me, but I still wasn't impressed. Like everyone was like, "Yeah."
With Count Dooku?
With Yoda, I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Yeah, Yoda," and I was just like, "Okay." Like
Darth Tyrannus, man.
shoulder shrug. So all in all, it was pretty boring.
So you were bored from the get-go, from the first moment you saw it.
I don't know
Wow.
why. I mean, I remember seeing the magazine cover, and I don't know what issue it was or what magazine it was, but when it showed Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker, I was like, oh, who is this guy? It's Anakin. All right, cool. Yeah, I go into the movie and I'm just bored.
Is that because of him or because of the movie?
It's just because of the movie.
Okay.
I mean, I'm speaking as an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about now,
Wow, I'm
we'll get
curious
into
to
that
hear
later.
what he thinks now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
His
All right,
reaction
well,
back
Jacob,
then.
we're going to go over to you. So what'd you think what was your first, do you remember watching it in theaters, and what'd you think of it?
same drive, same way to the theater. Well, when I was at the time, I was living in Palm Springs, California, and the town I lived in didn't have a movie theater, so we had to drive to the next.
So you had to drive,
town.
okay.
And it was like a 30-minute drive, so I always remembered it. But again, I loved it as a kid. Actually, I didn't love it as much as I loved Phantom Menace because there wasn't the pod racing moment. Mm-hmm. There wasn't anything equivalent to Darth Maul. There wasn't anything equivalent to the Darth Maul fight. But I loved it almost just as much when I was a kid. Again, like visually, how are you not fascinated as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid? Like, oh my God, like this is the greatest thing you've ever seen. And it just started with the Phantom Menace. It continued with, and even today, it still looks as visually stunning. So I absolutely loved them as a kid. And I don't know, when I was younger, I was like, especially after the Phantom Menace, I was obsessed with Natalie Portman. Like I had the hugest crush on her. So, as a kid, the romance scenes I liked because I was like, that's my girl. Like I was like, looked at it as if I was Anakin, and that was me, telling her that I love her. So it's like as a kid, you imagine those type of things. So for me, I wasn't able to recognize that it was boring. I just ate it all up because it was Star Wars. So ask 10-year-old me. The greatest movie ever.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it in theaters. I don't remember if I was at the theater or not, but I remember enjoying the living hell out of it. I was younger, and I just remember enjoying it from, especially the arena scene. I remember having so much fun with the arena scene.
We'll get into that when we go for positive specifically.
And and I even enjoyed the fight at the end. I thought it was fun, and the scene where Anakin gets his arm shot off or cut off per se, and then I thought the best scene in the movie was Obi-Wan versus Jango Fett, El Camino. Really cool, really fun in the rain, going back and forth, two equals going after each other. Obviously the love stuff was kind of boo-hoo, but
even as a kid,
I like Natalie Portman and all, but I was just like, this is Star Wars, I don't really need it. But I had a lot more fun with it than I did Phantom Menace. I had a lot more fun with it, and it was very exciting. Okay. I enjoyed it. I remember just loving it, eating it up. And it's a bummer because I don't remember watching it in theaters, but I just remember watching it and having a lot of fun with it. So, but let's go over to positives, and Jacob, I'm going to shoot it right back to you. What are the positives for Attack of the Clones?
Just, what is that planet? Oh, Coruscant, the one they're in.
Oh, Coruscant,
the chase scene.
Yes.
I loved that chase scene.
The chase scene's good.
It's incredible.
It's
and it's cheesy, yeah, but when he jumps down and he's put his arms out, and Obi-Wan's I hate it when he does that.
And it's okay, he's done this a million times before. It hints at the relationship they have.
Anakin's a rebel kid, and Obi-Wan always has to worry about him, and it makes sense because if when he's young, if he's headed towards the path that we all know he takes, he's gonna not listen to Obi-Wan a lot, And just I love in all the Star Wars movies the world building, all these planets and we don't really see that many planets in the Phantom Menace. We see a lot of planets.
There's a lot of planets in here, yeah.
Attack of the Clones, and every single one is fascinating. Like Coruscant, we see
Camino, Geonosis.
The Battle of Geonosis.
That's cool.
Called
that's cool.
The Battle of Geonosis.
That's pretty cool.
So in the original trilogy, you only get to see Luke and Obi-Wan. Those are the only Jedis you get to see. And even in the Phantom Menace, you don't get you get to see Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn fight, but that's really it. You get to see an army of Jedis fight. How is that not awesome? How is that not awesome?
Yeah.
I absolutely love that scene. I'll go back today and watch it and love it.
Well, it's cool because this is the moment where we knew that the Attack of the Clones was a pivotal point in the Star Wars galaxy because each squad of clones had their Jedi commander.
Yeah.
They each had their own unit. And you see them come together and fight in this whole battle sequence.
It's awesome. It's not the Clone Wars are referenced in the original trilogy, so it's not like it's all just made up for this movie, So it makes sense, and it makes me think even more, because I heard that he had all these stories planned out.
Oh, he's had them for years.
Yeah.
I guess in that article we talked about earlier, apparently after Return of the Jedi, it was only a few years afterwards he put all this stuff together.
Yeah. So
back in the 80s.
I think that's awesome, and I absolutely love that scene when all the Jedis are rushing, and some of them are getting shot down, and it's, even though it's made for kids, it's very violent. So I really enjoyed that. Obviously the Camino scene with Obi-Wan,
Jango Fett.
That's freaking incredible. And I love the Yoda fight. I thought it was amazing. That's the only time we get to see Yoda kick some ass in live action. So
and in episode 3.
Oh yeah, that's true. He fights
Sidious,
Palpatine at the end, but I didn't really enjoy that fight as much as I enjoyed this one with him and Count Dooku. That was and just the whole scene.
Well, I love that he walks up limping with his cane.
Yeah, the whole scene.
And then he just badasses it out.
And a moment in the movie, whether you might think it's cheesy now or it's just forcing nostalgia or whatever, but that first time you hear the Imperial March when Palpatine's looking over his army,
at the very end,
and you just hear you start hearing it, that gives me chills most times that I watch it, because it's just that score along with the villains in Star Wars is just incredible, and it's epic. So yeah, those are most of the things that I enjoyed about the film.
I'll echo a lot you said. The Battle of Geonosis is definitely one that stands out. You just see armies going back and forth with each other. Like I said before, the arena scene is something that I enjoy the hell out of. Seeing them fight these monsters alongside Geonosian people or creatures, I should say. Definitely the final fight scene, Obi-Wan and Anakin against Dooku, and then Yoda versus Dooku. Very cool lightsaber stuff going on, even though it was somewhat choreographed. But I mean, there are definitely some great positives in it. The world building, like Jacob said, going from planet to planet, really seeing the largeness of the Star Wars universe. So Gio, let's shoot it over to you. Positives, do you got any good ones?
Yeah. First positive is Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. Amazing performance. I think it was right after he finished
Lord of the Rings.
So
no, I agree with that though.
Excellent.
I didn't mention that, but
great casting. Yeah,
Darth Tyrannus, man.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right in the beginning of the scene, and I'm speaking as me now, right? My positive.
Yes,
yeah.
It's current day.
Yeah,
yes, current.
Not
day.
me as a kid.
No, current day
now.
positive.
Because me as a kid wouldn't say this, but when Anakin, when you first see the tension between Anakin and Obi-Wan, it's clear for me that Anakin should not be a Jedi. He's immediately questioning Obi-Wan, where he's like, why not investigate? And then Obi-Wan's like, you will listen to me. And then he goes, why? And then Obi-Wan looks at him like, what? Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty cool. The Geonosis battle, I like how it kind of foreshadows the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
When you first see, it's in a wide open area. You just see droids coming and cloners coming.
Ships and walkers, they're all fight. Yeah, it's crazy.
That sequence shot where the ship falls and there's a whole bunch of sand coming up there, and you see the cloners just shooting into the sand, and they know they're hitting stuff. It's just badass. It's kind of sad, too, because you realize these cloners are the ones who later on are the stormtroopers from Ewoks against the Ewoks. Well, I mean, I'm assuming.
Well, we know that stormtroopers aren't clones.
Are they? Really? Who said that?
That's from...
Did George Lucas say that?
It's been confirmed, and it was confirmed in the Clone Wars.
All right, we're going to talk about that off air.
And Rebels.
Okay, we're going to talk about that off air. Let's see. Okay, I lost my train of thought. Positives. I know I have more. Damn it. Ugh.
The final fight scene, Yoda?
No.
No? Really?
Well, I'll say...
Camino.
I'll say the build-up. where they're shooting the force back and forth, and
The lightning,
Yoda
catches
the lightning and shoots it back.
That's cool. Yeah, he grabs
the best scene in the movie, I think, is when Obi-Wan is on Kamino, because there's no Hayden, there's no Jar Jar. It's just Ewan McGregor and all these aliens, and then Jango Fett, talking. I love it. I love that whole entire.
I feel like that could be what the Obi-Wan spin-offs will be like. I want to see scenes like that.
I think because if it is an Obi-Wan spinoff, it's going to be him by himself.
Yes.
It's him after he dropped off Luke and the time he spent there.
Well, yeah.
But we'll talk about that.
He's going to be in hiding.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. So we're going to jump into negatives now.
I have one more.
Oh, one more positive?
One more. It's the music, the Anakin Padme music. What's it called?
Love Across the Galaxy.
Yes.
I love that score. I absolutely love it. It's all the music in all the Star Wars movies is amazing.
You can't go wrong with John Williams.
No matter what.
That's why John Williams is the best.
The best scores of all time.
Yeah. So we're going to jump into some negatives. I'm going to go ahead and start.
Okay.
So the big standout is the love story.
Yes.
It's like we've seen it in Star Wars before, obviously with Han and Leia and the love evolution they took over 3 films.
But it was never...
It wasn't this
corny.
It
was so subtle.
It was corny.
It built up.
Yeah, the Attack of the Clones stuff was just corny, and they tried to make it... It was rushed, and they tried to make it so serious to try and build up the fact that these are Luke and Leia's parents, and all this stuff going on, and the fact they go off alone and they have this playful shit in the grass, and it got really annoying and it gets corny, and it's definitely not one of its strong points. Another negative would be I didn't really enjoy the part where Anakin went off and started killing.
I forget the race, but the people that he blames for his mother's death.
The
Tusken Raiders. There you go, the Tusken Raiders.
Oh, that was a positive for me.
It was sad, and I thought that him finding his mother was a great positive, but it just didn't work for me very well. And
he said, "I killed them all. The children, the men, the women, the children. Yeah. You just slaughtered
them like animals."
Women, and then she's like, "I love you."
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's kind of negatives all over the place. I mean, the stuff with Padme is obviously the standout. It's nothing against the characters in George Lucas. I know what he was trying to do. I get it because of what happened with the original trilogy. Luke and Leia being the kids of them, trying to build it up and whatnot. But it just did not work. And I notice it now, but Hayden Christensen might have not been the best choice for the character of Anakin.
No.
I'm just going to say might have. I get it. He fit the role. And I'm not going to blame it all on him because he needs direction as well. Exactly. He was a brand new actor who gets cast in this kind of movie. You got to give him some kind of direction, and obviously he wasn't given it, which sucks because the character could have been really, really good.
And he's not like horrible.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
but
imagine if a good director would have worked with him.
Exactly.
Do you know who was actually up to play Anakin? You know who, right?
No,
wasn't it?
It was Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah,
DiCaprio. I did hear that. I did hear that.
Imagine, it wouldn't have changed who's directing.
That would have been crazy.
I could see him doing
that. Would have been crazy.
You know those scenes in Revenge of the Sith when Anakin's going crazy and losing his mind?
That would have been nuts.
That would have been amazing.
Anyway, so that I'm sure something else is going to come to me, but those are my negatives for now. Jacob, negatives. What do you think? Anything new?
Well, again, they try to emphasize on the politics.
Yeah.
Again, that's an ongoing thread throughout the prequels, and like I said, good idea, but just the execution wasn't right. And how is Palpatine getting away with all this stuff? It did not.
Yeah, they don't know he's Sidious already.
You can feel. If you're a Force user, you can feel bad vibes, and you can feel the dark side of the Force. And he was there. Unless he's so powerful, he can cover it up.
Well, he's pretty freaking powerful,
which would make sense, but they don't really explain all that, I don't blame Hayden Christensen. He was given horrible dialogue. He was given horrible direction, but just right from the get-go, he's just a whiny little girl. what does he say like in the first opening scene, or like not the opening scene, but like 30 minutes into the movie when it's just him and Padme talking, and I forget where they are, but he's like, I'm a better Jedi than Obi-Wan.
He gets angry.
He says that.
Yeah.
He says he's a better Jedi than Obi-Wan.
He says,
how is that even? That's not even possible. Like, he's barely. Obi-Wan had the proper training since he was a very young boy. Like, even though he didn't finish his trials or whatever, there's no question at this point. Like, Anakin eventually becomes more powerful than Obi-Wan through the dark side, but he's so immature and he doesn't know what he's talking about, and that like. We're supposed to, like, even though Darth Vader's a villain, he's arguably the most beloved character in Star Wars. And don't you want us to like Darth Vader,
yeah.
or the guy who becomes Darth Vader?
So the twist is even better.
He's so unlikable.
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, I didn't know the difference, but now
I definitely agree with that.
He's so unlikable, and that's the worst thing they did. He's the main character, right? At least in the
no, he's the main. It revolves around him. He's the main.
Like, and how do you make your main character like I hate him.
You don't care to see him on screen. You'd rather see Obi-Wan or someone else.
I mean, I can talk for an hour about how horrible the romantic relationship between Anakin and Padme are, but I'm not going to get into it.
Hey, how about those scenes in the grass, man? The rolling back and forth.
So
forced. Great, right?
Look, going back to Phantom Menace, why do they love each other? There's nothing that builds the relationship. Like, right when he sees her as a kid, he's like, you're an angel. Like, he's in love with her. That's fine. Like, a kid obsesses over older girls all the time, but he's like deeply in love with her. Why? They haven't even seen each other in 10 years. And he's in love with her.
Mm-hmm. But a counter argument would be that that's the only girl that he's seen in between the 10 years in training.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not defending.
That makes sense.
I am not defending.
Like, there's no, like, look, for Han and Leia, when they first meet, they don't like each other, and they very much dislike each other, and you see that relationship build up over time. They barely hint at it in A New Hope that there's a flare between them.
Well, they hint at Luke and Leia.
Yeah.
Instead of Han and Leia.
Well, like, you can see the sexual tension between Han and Leia.
Yeah.
Though. But so it's like there's no background to their relationship to even make me start to even believe for 1 second that they're in love. And why does she look? I could see him loving her, like, because
but not her loving him.
Why would she love him?
Yeah.
And I just slaughtered a bunch of kids and women. I love you. I'm done.
All right, Gio, what do you got?
The worst Star Wars movie, in my opinion.
Let's keep talking about the love. From the time they're rolling on the grass and Anakin fixes an injury, and then they're eating across the dinner table and Anakin uses the Force
with the pear
and then they're at the fireplace and Anakin's like, "I love you," like,
and they're sitting
if you're
there
feeling the same way I do,
staring into each other's eyes.
I know, it's like you're
and
totally.
She's like, we can't.
Yeah, it's like, yes.
It's like
I want to.
Totally teasing, and then finally at the end when they're about to go out to the arena, she says, "I love you," this and that. It's like,
I was waiting for the "I know" moment.
Right?
I don't
know.
Could you imagine if he said "I know"?
That would have been like the one great thing.
Could you imagine if he, like, Jacob? Would you have liked that if he said "I know"?
No.
She said "I love," and he goes "I know."
No, because it would have made the Han and Leia moment cheesy for me, and that's arguably my favorite moment in all
that
Star
moment's
Wars.
amazing. Like, I want that moment.
Did you ever? His brother showed me, but did you ever watch the Family Guy Star Wars
Yeah.
things? And she's like, "I love you." He's like, "F off."
Yeah.
That's so funny, dude.
All right, Gio, what do you got? What else?
Oh man, let's talk about the lightsaber battles.
Which ones?
Terrible. Let's start with
Really terrible?
Yeah, let's start with
God.
not the Obi-Wan one, but when Anakin has 2 lightsabers and he's
going against Dooku.
And he has all this talk about, I'm the better Jedi, and this and that. I've completed my training and whatnot. And he just gets his butt slaughtered.
Well, that's
To
like.
be fair, Darth Tyrannus has been
But think about
a
think,
Jedi.
a lot
for
of
like
movies do that.
50
Like,
years.
think of like I don't know. Let's say a boxing movie. This young upcoming boxer thinks he's a total badass. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take this guy on."
But
it should be out of it.
But it's the way they did it, though.
Okay.
I mean, because, all right, so Anakin cuts off the power cord, right? And they're both standing there, and then they're waving their lightsabers across their faces.
Yeah, that's so cheesy.
And then they spin both at the same time, and you're just like, what the hell am I watching here? Is this lightsaber battle?
It was a dance. It was a dance.
Yeah.
I love those scenes.
They were
I'm
dancing.
sorry.
They were
Still
dancing.
love
It's
those
just,
scenes.
and then the Yoda thing, all right, yeah, maybe it was cool, but it's just, I don't know. You got, like yelling and just, He reminded me of the dude from Quantum of Solace at the end, just yelling and attacking, just, what else? I don't have more. I know it. I know I have more. I can't think right now. See, I'm not prepared.
Battle Geonosis, did you like that?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
Cool.
I thought the battle against when they fought the animals, when Obi-Wan had
just
the
making sure.
spear.
Yeah, just making sure.
Yeah, that was cool.
So your negatives are good.
I think my negatives are good, but I know I'm gonna have.
All right, well,
more.
we'll get back to you if anything else comes up. So we're going to move on to how the movie has changed over the years. I know Jacob has already made his point it's the worst Star Wars movie ever, but I want to jump back to him anyway. Since its release and dozens of time watching it, what's your thought on it now?
Well, as a kid, the Phantom Menace was always my favorite, and I knew this back then that this was my least favorite of the Star Wars movies.
Okay.
Because Revenge of the Sith, well, you considered it a decent movie today.
I still consider it a decent movie, yeah.
Yeah. So, and for me, that was like, I loved that movie, just the whole, turn of Anakin when I was a kid, So, for this movie, I wasn't able to see the romance being forced. Like I said, I imagined that was me talking to Natalie Portman, so it was cool. But now I said before that elements in the Phantom Menace are unwatchable. They might be unwatchable. I can't watch these scenes with Anakin and Padme. I'll mute it or I'll fast forward it. I just can't watch it, and that's horrible. There's not a lot in Star Wars that I can't watch. I'll watch the Phantom Menace the whole way through and be fine, but there's parts of this movie that I cannot watch. Even though I really enjoy, you heard me talk about the Battle of Geonosis is actually one of my favorite moments in any Star Wars movie. So, my perspective as far as the story and the romantic elements have changed a lot, but I've actually grown to appreciate the things that I like.
Okay.
So that's
Cool.
how it's changed for me.
Gio, what do you think?
Not as boring as I thought it was as a kid, but
So you're entertained by it more now?
a little more. Yes.
Nice.
Wow, that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I was definitely more entertained. It's missing that Qui-Gon presence, if you know what I mean.
The almost father presence?
Yeah,
Because Obi-Wan wasn't there yet.
right. Whereas some of the slower scenes in Phantom Menace, it was Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon that held it up. Whereas it's missing, and I think the film suffers. And as boring as it was, I kind of see where Lucas was trying to go with a love story, but it just doesn't work out. It's almost to the point where it's entertaining because it's so terrible. Yeah. So that's my thoughts.
Okay. Well, yeah. I said that I enjoyed this one a lot more than the Phantom Menace when it first came out. But just like the Phantom Menace, over the years I've realized that it's not such a good movie. I still think it's better than the Phantom Menace in my mind, but it's not. I don't think it's anywhere near the Revenge of the Sith or anywhere near the original trilogies. Obviously, there are definitely elements that I do not like, but there are definitely elements that I liked, and I love the direction that we're going. The Battle of Geonosis, setting off the Clone Wars was very cool. Seeing the clones in action, and like Jacob said, the Jedi stuff, seeing them for the first time with lightsabers together. I mean that was the wow moment. I know that there's not really that pod racing Darth Maul moment in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
But that was the moment of the movie because we've never seen Jedi like that before on screen.
When they're all standing around and they got their backs to each other and they're all holding their lightsabers.
It's so awesome. It's such a good moment. But I mean, it's obviously I mean, it sucks that the movie wasn't too good because I would have loved to be able to watch these movies over and over and over again.
I have one more positive.
Oh, hey, that's good. Go for it.
Padme's outfit.
The white one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Natalie Portman, dude. Like you said,
Stomach.
she was the major crush. Like she was
Yeah.
the major crush.
Yeah.
And that'll probably never leave because
Star Wars.
dude, yeah. So no, hey, that's a great positive. Good point.
Yeah.
But like we all said, I
She
mean,
gets scratched on the back.
yeah. Like we all said, though, I mean, it's still Star Wars, and there are movies that we're gonna watch forever. We're gonna show them to our kids in the future, and they're always gonna hold a special place in our heart, no matter how much we hate them
Exactly.
or just are disappointed by them.
Yes.
They are still Star Wars. So, any last thoughts, fellas, on episode 1, episode 2? Anything else you guys can think of before we wrap up?
This conversation kind of makes me want to rewatch it again, which I will probably
We probably
do
will before The Force Awakens.
before The Force Awakens comes out. Yeah.
Got less than a month, so
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, so there might be kids out there who were too young when the prequels came out. Like, I'm talking like 2 or 3 years old. And
Yeah.
like they weren't, so they didn't see the prequels till maybe they're a lot older, So, like, actually able to understand them and process them. So, but I'm talking like maybe that 15-year-old kid today has heard that these movies are horrible and they're going to go into them thinking negatively. And I say don't do that. Like, if I would say go watch them and give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, you might enjoy elements of them. Don't go into the movies expecting to hate them, because then you're gonna think negative the whole time. Like, just sit back and leave everything at the door and watch the movies and enjoy them for what they are, and know they're not as good as the original trilogy, but they're still Star Wars, and there's still cool things in these movies, and Star Wars would not be what it is today if it wasn't for these movies.
well,
And I'll say that.
it's like we talked about earlier. We grew up on these movies because we're the generation that they came out with,
Right.
and
They came out for us.
a lot of our generation loved this trilogy because it's their trilogy.
Exactly.
You should go in with that kind of mindset. There's a lot of people that love these movies, and
even say they're not bad movies.
even if you go look at ratings, the reviews aren't that bad for them. They're like 50% or above. So they aren't terrible movies. It's just that
it's the disappointment of
yeah,
of
exactly.
not being
It's the
Star
hype.
Wars.
It's because the original trilogy is so damn good.
Yeah.
Like, if
that's
this
the
was
only
just
reason
a
why.
random space
Well,
opera,
it's like we talked about with Spectre. It's because it followed Skyfall.
exactly, because Spectre's not a bad movie.
It's because
but
it's followed Skyfall. So, like Jacob said, go into it looking forward to the movies. It's still Star Wars, and there's a high possibility of you still liking them, and there's great elements for it. So, that's going to wrap up our first Padawan Podcast review session of Episode 1 and Episode 2. Look forward for the next one. We're going to be reviewing Episode 3 and Episode 4, which is going to be very
that's
cool
going to be
because
interesting because it's one movie from the prequels,
exactly
one movie from
that's
the original
definitely going to
trilogy.
be very cool.
And it's like they pick off kind of, even though it's like
Yeah.
a huge time jump.
So it's going to be very cool to see. We're going to do that in 2 weeks. So look out for that. Before we go, fellas, where can I find you online? Gio?
This is C3GO. You can find me on Twitter at GeorgiaRamos24.
Jacob?
And I'm Grand Moff Bartley, Jacob Bartley. You can find me on Twitter at Governor Bartley, and anywhere, Facebook, Instagram, Jacob Bartley. And on this YouTube channel, please subscribe. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and you can find me, Jake Berlin, at Twitter, Instagram, at Qui-Gon Jake. You can find us on Facebook, and make sure to click subscribe for us, guys. And thanks for listening. Until next time, may the Force be with you.